Welcome to Punchline Talks Politics, sponsored by Infostar IT Solutions. My name is Mark Owen, and today my special guest is Alex McIntyre, is the MP for Gloucester. Thanks for joining us today, Alex. Just to put it in context, we literally, both of us, have just watched the budgets. You ran over there to your office. I've ran from my kitchen over to here, and it literally is hot off the press. So let's have your take on it, please, talking about the business community for the city.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me on, Mark. I think this was a really exciting budget for lots of reasons. First, I think it's really important to say, this is a historic budget, not just because it's the first Labour budget in 15 years, but the first ever delivered by a female Chancellor of the Exchequer. And I think that is a fantastic moment for all the women and girls in our city to see that they can really, achieve anything if they work hard, and that is available to them. So that's brilliant. I think the key message out I took from the budget today was something that Rachel said very early on, actually, and she said invest, invest, invest. And I think this is a budget for growth. This is a budget for business. This is a budget for making sure that everyone in our country and everyone in Gloucester can start to see the benefits of economic growth in our city. And that was our first mission, as you'll remember, during the election, was to get the economy growing again, because economic growth is so important. One, for our business community, because we want to see businesses thriving. We want to see them, generating that economic growth and being the drivers of change. But secondly, because we all benefit from it, because when we get growth, we get more taxes, we can invest more in our public services. And so that's why this budget, which is going to start the process of rebuilding the foundations of our country and start to kickstart that investment in our country and in Gloucester, is so important.
Okay, I'm going to ask you straight on the table, is there money for the Eastgate shopping centre, the £11 million Levelling Up Fund? Is that going to take place?
Well, you'll appreciate the fact that Rachel didn't go through every single line of expenditure in the budget today. And, I get told the budget just the same as you did. I've run directly from the chamber to here, so I've not gone through line for line yet. I do know they've said that, spending will be increased as a percentage in real terms across government departments. We're not returning to austerity. What that means for individual spending projects, I think we still need to go into the devil be in the detail on that. I'm hopeful. I'm still supportive of the scheme, and I'll be lobbying my colleagues in the Department for Housing, Communities and Local Government to ensure that funding remains. But we do have to. I know that the government have been looking line by line at all spending lines, because so many of the promises made by the last government simply weren't funded. And so whether the funding's there or not, we'll have to see when we get the full details of the budget. But as I said, I've just run from the chamber, so I haven't had a chance to go through that just yet.
You say it's a budget for business and for growth. I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting here and I can't see that myself. I see it as a budget that is actually taxing the hell out of businesses. You're talking about national insurance contributions going up for everybody. Talking about employing the minimum wage going up. These are big costs. All sorts of. It's a for a start, it's a massive spend. But let's go back to the 20. That's it. £25 billion of tax on businesses. He's talking about £5 billion on wealthy people. National insurance going up for myself and other people, employ people, and also right across the board, and the rise of the minimum wage. I'm sorry, I just can't see it myself.
Well, let's break this down a little bit. There's two parts of this. One is, we know we need to fix the country's finances, because what businesses tell me and what they're consistently telling me is that stability in public finances is so important. And we inherited a £22 billion black hole, which has been confirmed by the OBR today, that the last government covered up the true extent of the public finances. And it's really important that we get that stability back. And what we won't do is promise spending what we can't afford. So we've made some difficult decisions, and there are difficult decisions in this budget, to make sure that we balance the books each year. And that's why we've got this new stability rule that is going to be much tougher than any rules we've had in public spending before, about making sure that we cover our day-to-day spending on tax receipts. Now, we did make a promise during our election manifesto not to increase taxes on working people. That's why we have protected income tax, we have protected VAT, and we have protected employees' national insurance contributions. But I think there's a real important point here, that we are trying to make sure that the balance is of asking people to share the burden of these additional taxes is spread as broadly as we can, and goes on those who have the broadest shoulders to bear it. So, you raise national insurance insurance, and it has, we are changing the limits on national insurance, but at the same time, we're increasing employment allowance so that actually small businesses in Gloucester will, I think it's 1 million businesses nationally will pay less or no national insurance employers' contributions because of the increases to the employment allowance. We are tackling things like business rates, something that's been overlooked for years, and we've confirmed that in 26, 27 there will be permanently lower rates under a new business taxation that makes it fairer for our high street businesses to be able to compete against online giants. And we've extended the 40% relief on retail and hospitality. We've cut draft duty, so that's a penny off pints. We know our pubs have been battling increased costs, so we've taken a pint off of draft beer so that they can continue to be a bedrock of our local economy. We're tackling we've increased funding today for tackling shoplifting, something that we spoke about this when we had Alex Davis-Jones down. It's affecting businesses up and down Gloucester's High Street. That the last government introduced a charter that basically said that if you nicked less than £200 worth of goods, they weren't going to do anything about it. We've reversed that, and we've said that we're going to increase funding on tackling that because that's a real priority for local businesses. So I appreciate that there is the increase in national insurance, but we're got to balance that. And on the other side of it is what we're spending that money on, because actually what businesses really rely on is a functioning education system. What businesses rely on is a health service that works to keep their employees fit and healthy. And that is so important. And that's what, we've announced record funding today for those, for schools, for hospitals, so that we can deliver, a workforce that works for our local economy.
They do, Alex. But the other thing is, the schools, the armed forces, the police, they rely. The public services rely on a good, dynamic, growing business community. And when you start, asking about national insurance contributions, I'm a worker myself. I'm a working man. The minimum wage, the amount of money that is going to cost businesses to employ somebody else is quite extraordinary. It's going to add to them.
Let's look at the other side of it, Mark. 4,000 people in Gloucester currently earn the national minimum wage. They are going to see a 6.7% increase in their salaries next year. And do you know what happens when working class people in our city, they're more likely to spend their money in local shops and local businesses. So actually, increasing national minimum wage will increase the amount that's spent in our local businesses and increase spending in our local economy. So I do think, and actually,
Alex, they're gonna have to put up their prices. If you're a hairdresser, and you employ 5 or 6 people on a sort of living wage or minimum wage. Most people pay a little bit more anyway. You're going to have to increase your prices. It goes without saying. So the cost of everything is going to go up.
Well, I disagree with you, Mark. So if you look at the inflation figures that have been announced today, so the OBR have taken all of this into account, and they've announced their inflation figures for the next few years, and they're all within the margin that we've set, the target of 2% plus or minus 1% that the Bank of England has set. So we're miles away from the rampant inflation under the last government, which was over 11%. These measures have all been considered, and the inflation will stay at around 2.5%. And actually, what we're doing is delivering on one of my manifesto pledges, which was tackling the cost of living. So for the first time, we have a national living wage that takes into account the cost of living, and the cost of living is so important for so many people in our city. And I won't apologise for delivering a pay rise to 4,000 of the lowest paid workers in our city. And I appreciate that does increase costs on business, but as I've said already, that the smallest businesses in our city will benefit from a massive increase in employment allowance, which allows for 4 people to be employed on the national living wage without paying any national insurance at all. So this is about balance. This is about making sure that we are supporting working people, we are supporting our public services, and we are supporting growth. And the OBR have backed that up. We've seen that this will add 1.4% to our economy over the long term. We're seeing that we're going to create, that we've announced £63 billion of investment nationally, 40,000 more jobs created just last week from that investment summit. We're looking at how we get more people back to it. There's a real positives coming out of this for our economy and for people in our city.
Don't you think that all these leaks and everything now has put a real dampener on the whole event? The fact that actually you've spooked the business, that you've actually spooked the business economy. Over the last couple of months, we've been talking about this, all of us, and we've all been, worrying. People have stopped investing, stopped hiring people because of the way the government has leaked all these things.
I'd say the complete opposite, Mark. We saw what happened when, under Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, they decided to rip up the rule book. They didn't roll the wicket ahead of their budget, and they almost crashed the economy. And people in Gloucester are still paying the price, £210 more on their mortgage every single year because of Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss failing to prepare markets, failing to prepare industry for the change ahead. We've been clear. Most of these promises that we've delivered on today were in our manifesto. They were very clearly set out in our manifesto. And we've been clear and making sure that business is with us. And, I challenge the fact that that business confidence is down. As I said, the International Investment Summit. We generated £63 billion of investment into this country. That's much more than the last government delivered. That's 40,000 more jobs, and that is going to, as we get more investment into our economy, as we see these businesses invest locally and nationally, that will only boost confidence further. But the fundamental here is we've got to fix the foundations of our country. We know the country's been broken over the last 14 years. We know we've got an economic inheritance that is absolutely dire, and any responsible government would have to take steps to address that. That's what we've done now. But we said when we were campaigning, and I've been clear on this, we can't fix 14 years of failure overnight. We've had just over 100 days now. We've set out our plans. This is a decade of national renewal that we need. And yes, there are difficult decisions as part of this budget. Of course there are. Nobody wants to come into government and raise taxes straight away. But we had to fill the void that was left by the last government. We have to put our public finances on a sure footing, provide that stability. Corporation tax, that was jumped up and down by the last government at will. We've committed that it will not increase during the term of this government. If anything, we want to keep it as competitive as we can, and that's why we've committed to that, so that businesses, particularly larger businesses that obviously pay that, have that stability as well. So this is about a balanced budget that is, yes, I accept there will be some increase to some businesses in their costs. We're asking them to bear the burden of helping us fill that black hole, as we are asking others with difficult decisions that we've taken. But we're supporting at the same time. We're supporting our public services. We're supporting small and medium-sized businesses. We're supporting working people here in Gloucester. And I won't apologise for delivering a proper pay rise for 4,000 lowest paid individuals in our city, so that they can start to tackle the cost of living, so they have more money in their pocket at the end of the week.
I must admit, I do feel sorry for the entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur myself, not feel sorry for myself, but it's just going to be a massive burden for the rest of us. A lot of people don't make a lot of money, running their own companies. They sacrifice and make an awful lot of sacrifices. They put their own personal finances on the line. They put their own personal health and their lives and marriages on the line to keep these businesses going. And sometimes they don't even take salaries themselves, Alex. It's tough. It is tough running a
It is.
business.
My parents ran a small business for years. I know just the sacrifices that people make, and it's hard work. And I really value the contribution that our small businesses make in our city. And that's why, as I've said, we've taken steps to support small and medium-sized enterprises to shield them from some of the increased costs. For example, on the national insurance with the employment allowance going up, and we've protected the annual investment allowance. We've protected other allowances to make sure that people continue to invest in their small businesses. And this is about a balance. We as I said, this isn't us picking on one group or another. This is about making sure that we are delivering the better public services that people voted for, the tackling the cost of living, but also looking at supporting businesses and coming back to that first message of invest, because that's the way we're going to grow our economy and the way we're going to deliver a better future for all of us here in our city.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's 75. So excuse me, it's 75 billion pound spend. It's an awful lot of money that will need to be paid back.
Well, no, this is the thing about investing in future growth, is that the investments that we make today will continue to generate. So, for example, our investment in GB Energy, we are going to be investing alongside private sector businesses to create new energy sources of the future, renewable energy sources. And those will feed back into the economy. Investment is not a dirty word. Any business knows you have to invest in your business to grow, and that is what we're doing as a country. But instead of just saying we're going to leave the the private sector to it. We said we're going to come alongside you because we know that businesses need that support. They need that insurance. Today, £1 billion announced for the aerospace industry, an investment. That's a fantastic local news story. That will support local jobs. That will make sure that we are continuing to grow our industries of the future. And I think that is so important that this is one that we should be confident about, saying that investing in our country, investing in our economy is a good thing to do, and we have a choice. We either have more decline under the Conservatives or we invest under Labour, and I will always choose investment in our public services, in our local businesses, in the industries of the future, in local people, ahead of managed decline, which we've had for the last 14 years.
Alex, if there's one take from the whole lot, what was your one thing, or the one piece of news that you could take from today?
I think one of the biggest things for me is about the massive increase in real terms funding for our NHS, with promise that we'll have 18 weeks waiting list. That is our aim, to get waiting list down to 18 weeks. There's far too many people in our city waiting to see their doctor or the GP. And it's bad for business because so many people are off sick from work who are sat on an NHS waiting list. We need to get the NHS working again. £22.5 billion is a massive. It's the biggest increase in funding for NHS since 2010 outside of COVID in real terms, and that is going to be transformative to so many people here in our city.
Alex, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. Thanks for talking to Punchline Talk today. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Infostar IT Solutions. Hopefully, we'll see you very soon, Alex.
I hope so, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you.